time could not be turned back. Thanks, A. Einstein. He was crazy now. He had a fruitcake.
Jim, I'm going to take a shot. The moment I saw 12, I was shocked. Monkeys in movie theaters.
As I left, my mind was spinning with many that is.
Going back in time, a virus that deletes people who were forced to live below ground, and a main character you can never be sure about.
Is he crazy or is he the only one who's really crazy?
Only after a long time, I found out that behind the camera, the film worked a lot like the world it showed was dangerous and out of control and always on the edge about to go wrong. What a prostitute said, putting a knife to a crew member in Wide Day, to a lead actor voluntarily giving his life to a mental hospital to learn how to go crazy, to eerie making correct predictions about the future.
12 Monkeys is a movie that came from real events. Chaos. Here are 20 crazy behind-the-scenes information about 12 Monkeys 1995.20.
A prostitute attacks a place. Look around with a knife. When I saw 12 Monkeys for the first time, 2V always thought the film was going bad. The streets had been messed up. Use your mind. The America that Terry Gilliam made was it looked like it had been left alone after the end of the world. A dirty motel blocked out the light, and the air is thick with unease. It was scary, but it was still movies. There was putting some space between the audience and that world.
That distance went away when this story was taught to me.
A manager of the place was checking out Camden, New Jersey.
It is daylight.
No movies, no actors, not any movie cameras. Just a man taking. There were pictures of a rundown motel to show Thane charge. Then a knife came from behind, pressed up against his throat.
Not a warning and only a second to get that one. The wrong move could end everything. There it is.
The woman with the knife had been a prostitute. She believed he was a police officer. His life was over for a short time. Was warned about. Some cash and his camera were taken. No one yelled cut.
There wasn't a second take.
This was not a post-apocalyptic play scene.
This was the gift.
What's up? What gives me chills isn't the attack itself, but the terrible coincidence. 12 Monkeys is about a world where social violence has taken the place of order. Can happen at any time, where people you will react with fear and paranoia.
And while trying to find places to show, the crew walks right into that story. It really happened. 19.
Brad Pitt checks himself into a mental hospital. There is something very disturbing about it. About going to see Jeffrey Goins.
You never. I believe he is acting. There's not far away, and not sure how to control things.
The person jumps off the screen like that kind of energy that you can't hold back, and it throws the viewer off. That's because Brad Pitt didn't go up to her. This role is a role. His own free will. His mind was checked into a mental school, not just for a few hours of observation, not to study, but to people who live there. He heard what talks that don't have an end point, people that society thinks are unstable. There are the usual ways to talk to each other. Fall apart.
Time gets messed up and no longer is logic a straight line.
Pitt didn't he learn how to act like you're crazy?
Hell learned what it's like to be lost from the world. It didn't work, though. That's it.
A voice teacher saw that too much pot smoking made Pitt move more slowly. His tongue and making it less sharp of his speech. A performer getting ready to play a crazy person was told to be smarter and faster. Better at fighting. Pitt pushed through it. He was almost too busy to handle everything. This leads to Jeffrey Goins speaking nonstop, as if being quiet would kill him, moving all the time, as if they were still would mean falling apart. But this is the scary part. He sees that the system around him was meaningless to him. Not enough language, but too clear, normal enough for other people to handle. Taking notes. 18. Bruce Willis and the note from his mom Cole may have been a ticking time bomb, angry, defensive, all the time, not in sync with the other people around him.
Hennett feeling like a hero.
He thinks that's someone who has to live in a world that's not willing to listen. I used to believe that was just a choice for acting. After that I find out that some of it came from a truth behind the scenes that couldn't. You can't stand Bruce Willis either. Willis was repeatedly being late so many times that Terry Gilliam remembered a time when what Willis brought with him was it looked like a note from his mom as an excuse me. This was not a funny story, but a star's sign used to be took pleasure in stepping into a movie that refused to give in to him.
Gilliam lost. Be patient.
He was very critical of Willis, saying that the way they looked made him look like he was at someone's ass. The rude and unapologetic comments made the set look like a wound wire. Then something strange happened. It happened. All of that stress seeped into Cole. The character never chills out, doesn't trust anyone, and never really belongs anywhere. For sure, it was the clash between Willis and Gilliam that by accident, they made the thing 12. We need monkeys. Above all, a main character who's unpleasant, not funny, and not meant to get along with people. 17. A film about a pandemic that comes true almost 25 years before COI in the year 1996, 12 Monkeys was thought to be too extreme. A virus that kills all people.
People underground and had to live there.
A trip around the world in fear. It was a sad science fiction story. Enough to make people shiver, that leave the theater sure that it has nothing to do with them. Wiped out that feeling of being far away, seeing the 12 Monkeys again after the pandemic. That is the scariest thing, not the virus.
That's how people act. That.
Putting information and science together, warnings are being called into question, crazy ideas.
Society doesn't fall apart in nothing. It falls apart in noise, in arguments, which leads to less trust.
Not crazy just because he's wrong. People think he's crazy because his truth it comes too early, is too uncomfortable, and breaks the weak feeling of safety all of them are holding on to.
That's when 12 Monkeys shows what it's really like.
The virus is just a starter.
What really kills the world is a general feeling of unease and not being willing to listen. 12 Snakes did not see a pandemic coming.
It was expected how we felt about one. That's why after almost 25 years, the movie still makes people feel really uneasy. 16. Someone who was a fan hid overnight and in prison was left empty. Every time I watch 12 Monkeys, I always remember the chill that goes through me whenever the prison scene shows up, a light slicing through damp stone corridors like thin wounds through iron bars, and how this place has made you feel for a very long time. It was left alone.
No rules and no control.
The eastern state the prison in the movie looks and feels like a relic from a world that is no longer alive.
In real life, it was even worse.
When it was being made, the woman got past security in some way. Went into the empty prison and no one noticed that they were there all night. A place picked for being alone, and it turned out that decay was the best place for it. Look for an intruder. When the next morning the crew showed up to get to work, she showed up to the set and asked to see Brad Pitt. Pitt had just been named the sexiest man alive by the press.
There was no longer any fan obsession with writing letters or waiting outside of fences. It had gone past a physical line. A prison is a sign of confinement and no court order could stop a personal being stuck. Following the event, the steps were changed completely, but the crack was already clear to see. 12 Monkeys shows a world where all safety systems don't work. In this case, that failure was caused by absolutely sure they believed that no matter what, she had to get to her idol. 15. John Cedar almost lost his sight from explosions in the trenches of World War I. Scene, the trench scene from World War I in 12. I've always been scared of monkeys. When it comes to the body, it doesn't look like war in Hollywood. Not glitzy, note it's just mud explosions and a sense of chaos and no way out. Looking at it, there is no war.
You're stuck. It turned out that feeling was real pain. John Cedar was on set during filming. Being way too close to the explosion. Not close to the safety in a movie theater way, but close enough for to blast right into dirt and junk his face. Every explosion had mud in it, rocks, gravel, and pieces of wood. Many of them looked right into his eyes. Between the crew had to choose from the takes different stones out of his eyes so they could keep filming. There was no perfect life. Safety gear and no CGI to make it less scary. The results. Each blast was real. Danger to his eyes. Cedar said afterward he was so tired that he could hardly open his eyes. Had to keep going because of the shooting time constraints and pressure to produce.
12 Monkeys doesn't show war as a heroic thing to do, remember. It makes it seem like an event that hurts people.
And sometimes realness is achieved in movies by calling for real blood and flesh. Offer up. One whose price doesn't always change can be seen on screen. 14.
Terry Gilliam was scared of Brad Pitt. I could not keep up.
Not only does Brad Pitt in 12 Monkeys not just talk quickly. He talks as if he were stopping for it would take only a second for the world to fall apart. Jeffrey Goins keeps spitting out words, panic without breaks or space to take a deep breath.
When I watched those scenes, I asked, how do you even control that? Rhythm? Terry Gilliam also asked something, and he was really worried.
He feared that Pitt wouldn't be able to keep up the rushed, intense delivery of the character as needed. Pitt was sent by Gilliam to work with a voice teacher and get ready for it is a very difficult process to do. The outcome, however, was not expected. Pitt wasn't taught how to talk by the coach. Faster.
He only did one thing. Took away cigarettes from Pitt's.
Not having nicotine, without the regular rhythm of breathing and peace of mind, Pitt became more tense and restless, and exactly what Gilliam had to
Not able to keep still, the speeches by Jeffrey Goins stopped. Feeling like I need to memorize dialogue. They was forced to erupt as if the character were trying to get ahead of his thoughts. 12 Monkeys doesn't make anything. Using movie tricks to make things crazy, something very clear to Gilliam, of course. Not always what you need, better acting, but getting rid of anything that makes an actor feel safe. Point 13. It was such a mess that it scared people away, almost all of the directors. If 12 Monkeys made you feel lost, if you saw it the first time, don't worry, the feeling was there on the page. It was remembered by producer Chuck Roven that Thea's script was sent to a lot of directors and the reactions were pretty much the same. They read it, rubbed their heads, and passed. It wasn't bad, viewed it was lost and nobody knew what to do with it, timelines that are clapping, unstable points of view, a main character who could be crazy or not. The 12 Goats script was like a pretty puzzle with no clear answer. It made the reader do to deal with ambiguity, and that scared a lot of directors. No one but Terry Gilliam saw there is order in the chaos. Not because he knew everything, but because he was fine with not understanding. Gilliam didn't try to write the script easier to take in. He let it stay unsettling, and they believed that audiences were smart enough to deal with that having pain. Maybe that's why there is 12 Monkeys. Anyhow. It wasn't safe, but because someone was brave enough to people who think that confusion is sometimes the truth. Point 12. Nicolas Cage and Tom Cruise were not chosen for the lead role. I learned that Tom Cruise and Nicolas Cage had both been thought about for the when I thought of the part of Cole. I think of a very different 12 Monkeys, more intense, sharper, and probably safer. At that time, Hollywood worked like a simple machine. Need for big movies, well-known names. Studios thought a box office guarantee would make this hard to understand, sell the story better. Terry Gilliam didn't agree. Not because those people their lack of skill, but because they were too sure, too strong, or too in charge of how they look. Cole isn't a brave hero who charges ahead. He is a man who always doubts his own. Someone who doesn't know memories find out if he's crazy or not. Gilliam only agreed to work with Bruce Willis when he knew something that the other two did not. Couldn't offer an everyday weakness. Being tired that didn't need to be acted on. That look that always asked, what if? Am I wrong? If Cruise had played the part, Cole may have learned how to solve problems. Cole might have played him if Cage had done it. Turned into a huge emotional blast. But Cole became someone who was with Willis trapped, and 12 Monkeys needed just how you feel. Point 11. The actors almost died in toxic buildings used for business, something simple that is simple to overlook. While many people who watch 12 Monkeys say that after the end of the world, places weren't built. Sets. They were really factory abandoned buildings that are falling apart in the strictest sense. That made the line between making movies and taking risks scary thin in your life. Some manager thought back to a time when just a difference of a few seconds would have meant death. As they looked for an old power plant, a huge piece of ceiling unexpectedly fell right in front of him. If he had taken one step more slowly, it would have hit him right on the head. Because of that, the crew spent 3 months taking care of asbestos and residual harm inside these buildings. Doesn't make the graphics better, but make sure every day there were shootings, people lived. They were making a world after the end of the world inside places that could really kill them. 12 Monkeys picked these spots for that reason. A world where doesn't fall apart when it explodes, but by ignoring it. 10. A racist rap artist, Bruce Willis, and DJing not caring joke. When I think about 12 Monkeys now, it is simple to forget that it was created in 1990s. There were many things that were thought to be normal because no one stopped to ask them a question. The group's repone of those times was the party. Bruce Willis took over the party playing music like a DJ on the spot. The mood was calmed down. People talked and laughed. He then asked to play some Latin music. You're the only one, Willis replied. Puerto Rican here, and then dance. The line wasn't meant to be funny, without meaning to attack, without malice. But time moves forward and backward. After the fact, that's when you can see how casual once upon a time, being insensitive was normal. And sometimes the things that hurt the most when we look back, we see that aren't in the film itself, but not in the picture. 9. The budget almost went out of control because of fake snow. When you think of a movie involving viruses that can kill and time travel, one could imagine budget fights over visual places where effects happen or actor pay. But for 12 Monkeys, one of the biggest wars in money, fake snow at the center. How it works: the team used soapy water and squished air to make scenes of winter. The snow looked more like in the first test. Shave cream instead of ice. Terry Gilliam, I saw it and went off. Not over a child detail, but because it broke the film's real-life setting. 12 snakes not able to pay for anything that looked fake. A lot of scenes had to be shot again. The budget grew just to pay for the when it snows.
it should stick properly and the right amount of melting. It's silly to believe that a movie about the fall of people almost went bankrupt over soapy bubbles. 8th. Chris Marker gave away the rights to a meal from China. If there is a moment that shows the beautifully silly absurdity of movies, this is one of them. The Chris Marker, that creator of Lee T, was known for being hostile that way about most Hollywood movies. His rare Vertigo was the only one. Still, 12 Monkeys is a $30 million Hollywood movie project is possible because of a Chinese food. He was asked by Francis Capella on an easy question about dim sum. Jan Dave and I want to make this movie. They re good people. Okay, that's fine. No contracts, no lawyers, and no long talks, not much talking, just a nod. Quite likely the most pricey Chinese food in history of Hollywood. 7. Bruce Willis had a child. Look like Brad Pitt. You can see two men in against, a loud, paranoid firecracker, and a tired man was worn down by time. But there was a behind the glass a day when almost everything broke down, not because of the story, but because of stress in the mind. Brad Pitt had such a bad day to shoot that even he knew he couldn't get into the part. Every take was even worse than the last one. Terry Gilliam, I saw it right away and understood this. It wasn't a technical problem. It was a mental breakdown. A young actor being hard to show he was more than just a pretty face. At that time, Bruce Willis, who often had disagreements with Gilliam, has changed a lot. He moved out of the part of the tough star and changed into something else, a dad. He talked to Pitt, reassured him, and pulled him in away from a circle of self-blame. And Pitt made it because of that moment through what could have been the worst day off his early work. 6. A premiere that really felt like heightened of time. People usually remember film premieres as fancy traditions. Carpets of red, flashing cameras, and fancy clothes. But for 12 Monkeys, its first showing in New York, it felt more like a threat of death than an event for publicity. December, there was a storm hit. The streets were shut down. Guests fought through icy wind and cold strollers just to get to the theater. No people got out of their cars with style. No someone struck a great pose. People, they showed up with their coats buried in snow and red faces. Just like the survivors in the movies after the end of the world. The chance event, it almost felt too good to be true. By accident. A movie about the end of the world premiere in a locked New York down in the woods. No marketing or setting UPA trick. The city was the background. And it was the most honest in some way a possible start for a movie like this. 5. A court case that showed ideas don't work fully belong to anyone. This movie wasn't seen by everyone. Saw a work of art. For the builder Lebbeus Woods, the movie got into trouble with the law. Wood went after Terry Gilliam, saying that the movies copied his work, especially though the future interrogation room is dirty, the place where a prisoner is tied to a chair like a hospital bed as a sphere falls from the ceiling in order to question him. It wasn't a small thing. Information. It was one of the best parts of the movie, iconic pictures. Wood said that they never asked for permission, never negotiated, but they never told him, this is very important. The court agreed with Woods. The judge ruled in favor of the architect. To keep those scenes in the movie, the producers had to pay a lot of money, a real cost for an idea that wasn't all of theirs. 4. Bruce Willis was almost no cost. Bruce Willis was at the top of his game. Could ask for almost any salary he wished. But for 12 Monkeys, he picked the other way. He agreed to take a fee far not up to par for an A-list star. It's not that he didn't need the money, but he wanted to work with Terry Gilliam. In fact, Willis just about did work for free. His payment didn't come until after the movie came out, a rare gamble for someone in his place. It made one things are clear. 12 Monkeys took a while to grab the cash. It was a risky move. 3 Teenage thieves were scared by the Siberian tiger. If there's a time when 12 the Monkeys didn't just show fear, but lived next to it, this is it. Two teens, who probably thought they were stealing a small item, broke into a trailer with film equipment where a tiger from Siberia named Sasha was being to be used in the production. For them, it was just a dark, quiet trailer. Get some tech stuff. They had no idea that inside was a being weighing almost half a ton born to kill. Together one of them was taking out a radio, a huge out of the darkness. All of a sudden, then there was a deep, low growl. Not needed loud enough to stop a heart from beating. The teens were caught by security in full fear, crying, and shaking. One was wet himself. No harm, and no chase. Though fear did not go away, the movie accidentally hinted at viewers' fixation on watching again and again. After seeing 12 Monkeys, most of us for the first time, not sure what we saw just now. You remember Cole's first scene of being questioned, telling her over and over that he's not. While the doctors look at him, he goes crazy. Like a case from a book.
At that time, we trust them.
Coles, on the other hand, eyes tired, resigned, as if he's given up explaining something that should be painfully clear, feel very different all of a sudden. Or the Jeffer always pays attention to just the right time, saying things that don't make sense until you connect the and see that everything was already there in place from the start.
Watch T-Sit for the first time as a trip through time story. You start to see it the second time that you can't get out of it.
Further, on the third watch, you understand the movie didn't want you to fully understand it right away. You were asked to return to not trust your own memory, just like the characters in the movie have doubts about what's real. Where they live. Point 1, a stupid end date that was moved turned out to be great. Gilliam was shocked to learn that 12 Monkeys was set to come out on December 27. He believed it was a bad thought. After Christmas, people are tired, and money already spent, theaters full of fun things for the whole family to do.
Not Theat's time to put out a sad movie about there will be viruses and the end of the world.
But that choice kept the movie alive. After days of lights, fun, and being pushed with hope, audiences came out of I felt a strange emotional void at Christmas. 12 Little Monkeys showed up like a desperate dose of reality, saying it straight out, you are not as strong as the world is.
What do you think?
The first result, at the box office. A $30 million movie that earned almost $180 million around the world because it made me feel good. When the holiday cheer wears off, people are ready to deal with their fears. You just learned some behind-the-scenes facts. Read, do not add more 12 Monkeys. Movie-like. If anything, they pull it. More like real life. With real violence, there is danger, real egos, and choices made in chaos. That could be why almost 30 the movie still looks good after all these years.
12 Monkeys are like a loop.
Each return reveals a fresh fact, a fresh meaning, and a new feeling of unease. If you've seen 12 Monkeys and had a bad feeling about something, stay after the end credits. Leave a comment on the event that haunted you the most. Most.
Don't forget to share, sign up to make sure you don't miss the next one. Videos.